cardiovascular system, which is going to be module number 7. Okay, so I'm going to start this one the same again. I'm going to go through the info sheet, a bit of a brief overview, and then we're going to go to the page that's got your structure and function parts. Okay, so the one thing I want you to notice here with your circulatory system and the parts of it is that we make reference to the human body with regards to the fact that it's the human perspective. Okay, so take note of the left and the right. So when you see here, you've got the heart, and this is a cross section of the heart opened up, that yeah, this really truly is the left side of the heart, because imagine that heart sitting in the human, okay, that this would be my left side, this is my right side. Of course it's backwards for you, but that's basically how we do it when we're talking about anatomy. Okay, so overall function. What's the overall function? We need our cardiovascular system to be able to pump blood. So it's comprised of the blood. The blood's going to be pumped through vessels, so arteries, capillaries, and veins. And it also needs to have that heart, which is the pump part of it. Okay, so there's a pump, which is the heart. There's the fluid, which is the blood that transports things like carbon dioxide and oxygen. And then there's the vessels by which the blood gets transferred through. Okay, so those are the main parts, and the whole point of our cardiovascular system is to be able to exchange gas. All right, you need to be able to get oxygen in, you need to get rid of the carbon dioxide, because remember, those are the gases that are involved in what we call cellular respiration, because at the mitochondria, in every single cell, you need to get oxygen there, you need to get glucose there, makes energy, and the byproduct is carbon dioxide. So it's your circulatory system, your cardiovascular system that does that exchange of gas and gets those gases to and where they need to go. Okay, so here we go. Look at the tissue, cardiac muscle tissue. And again, it looks a little bit different, right, than the smooth muscle tissue that lines your organs. It's very thick, okay? And you can think of it that it needs to do a lot of work. Your heart beats on its own, and it beats so many times. If you calculate how many heartbeats your heart has per lifetime, that could be one of your crazy body facts, okay? It beats all the time, continuously for your entire life. So the muscle, and when you're exercising, you're really exercising that heart muscle. It needs to be able to perform its function very efficiently, okay? That's the heart. You can see here that it's got different parts to it, and there's vessels going in and out of the heart. And you'd be amazed, in grade 11, you're going to have a look at a pig's heart. We're going to actually slice it open, and you can actually see the thick walls of the muscle tissue. You can see the vessels that bring blood in and out of the heart. Remember, there are 4 chambers of the heart. So you've got your right atrium. Kind of like to start here because that's actually where the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of your body and the lower part of your body all go into that chamber, okay? So your blood goes in, and it's colored blue just because it's deoxygenated, meaning that it's got a higher concentration of carbon dioxide than oxygen, all right? From here, it travels down to the right ventricle. So the top 2 chambers are the atrium. The bottom 2 chambers are the ventricle. And again, this is the right side of the patient's heart and the left side. So from the right atrium, there's a valve that controls the flow of blood. And when your heart pumps, right, the top of it contracts and the bottom part 2 chambers relax. And then the bottom chamber contracts and the top 2 chambers relax. And as the chambers relax, they fill up with blood. And as they contract, that pushes the blood from one chamber to the next. So from the right atria, travels down to the right ventricle, and then that blood needs to go to the lungs. That's really one of the main functions of the heart, is to pump blood through our pulmonary system to the lungs. So let me show you. It's going to go from this chamber here, and out the back, because remember, you have 2 lungs, so your heart's efficient. It doesn't just send the blood to one side, it actually sends it to both sides, okay? Once that blood gets oxygen it travels back. And again, you have to imagine that there's a chamber at the back, a vessel at the back that's going to bring that blood back. I'll show you on the other diagram. Where does it go? It goes to the left atrium, and then from there to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, that oxygenated blood, and I should have really done those in red, right? Here we go. Red meaning now I've got oxygenated blood, so blood with a high concentration of oxygen because it's just picked it up from the lungs. From the left ventricle, it's now going to get pumped out through this vessel here, and you can see it looks like it's coming from back, but that's actually where it's connected. This is the main artery of your body, and it is called the aorta. Okay, so all blood that travels to all the body cells in your whole body gets pumped from the left ventricle out to the aorta and then up, down, and all over. Okay, so that's basic heart parts, the 4 chambers of your heart and how they beat. That's the heart, right? The next component of your circulatory system is your blood, and your blood has platelets, which are used for coagulating when you have a cut, right? They group together, they clump together to make a scab. Your blood also has white blood cells, which are part of your immune system. So they engulf foreign matter. So it could be a bacteria, it could be virus, it could be anything like that. They get rid of the waste products. Has red blood cells. These are the ones that actually carry the oxygen. And that's these guys right here. They look like little discs, little junior mints, if you will. They've got it increased surface area because the center part of them is squished, okay? And then the fluid part's called the plasma. So that's the second major component of your circulatory system. And the third major component is the vessels, so the things that actually carry your blood, all right? There are arteries, veins, and capillaries. And you can see here that, again, it's nice when they're color-coded, right? Because you can see that deoxygenated blood is traveling in a vein. Veins carry blood back to the heart. Once they exchange gases and become oxygenated, that oxygenated blood is carried in an artery. Arteries have thicker walls, and there's a couple of questions in the homework that ask you to look at the tissue that make up those organs and how they're different. Again, it's all based on what the function is. That's the kind of tissue you're going to have. And then the last little one here is so important to think about. This is the capillaries. These ones are 1 cell thick. These are the ones that surround every single cell in your body, and it's a really efficient transfer of the oxygen across that membrane right into the cell. So oxygen needs to go from a capillary into a blood cell at the same time that the carbon dioxide travels from the blood cell back into the capillary, and then it travels back to the veins, etc. Okay, so the 2 main circulatory loops that we talk about are the fact that your heart and the right side of your heart, so you can see this side of the diagram right here, okay, your heart takes the deoxygenated blood into the right side. From there, it gets pumped to both lungs, left and right, exchange of gases, and you can see that on the diagram then that you're going to pick up the oxygen. The blood actually is redder, okay, it turns more red because of that oxygen attached to those hemoglobin molecules in your red blood cells. But then that blood needs to go back to your heart in order to pump it to your whole body. Okay, and so when that blood comes back from the lungs, it enters into the left atria and then the left ventricle and then pumped out the aorta. So you can see on your diagram, where would the aorta be? Right there. Okay, that's the spot that sends the blood out and about. All right, so there's lots of other information on this page right here, but that's a brief overview of our circulatory system. So let me show you again on the diagram here, where we will go into detail in this in grade 11, but in grade 10 it's kind of nice to get a sense of what these structures are, because again, that's really one of the big ideas in biology. How does structure affect its function? So we have to know what the name of things are in order to be able to talk about how they actually work together and what they can do. right? So this is the basic biology that we do start in grade 10 so that you have a sense of the vocabulary and what things are called, so then you can delve into what actually happens. Now, the only structures that I haven't really talked about would be the pulmonary arteries and the veins. So can you see there that the pulmonary arteries are the ones that take blood away from the heart? So it's called an artery. Pulmonary meaning going to the lungs. Veins, the pulmonary veins bring that oxygenated blood back to the heart. So again, a vein travels towards the heart, an artery travels away. You'll also notice that there are some control valves that prevent that flow of blood from going where it's not supposed to go. The AV valve is the valve that controls between the atria and the ventricle, and then it's either on the right side or the left side. And then the other valves are the ones called the semilunar valves. These are the ones that prevent the blood flow from going out a vessel when it's not ready to go. And when you're hearing your heartbeat, if you've ever had a chance to use a stethoscope to actually listen to your heart, you hear the lub-dub. What are you hearing? You're hearing the rush of blood flowing and hitting these valves. And it actually gives that fluid sense hitting some tissue there. So that's actually what's happening. Next important thing to think about here is that if we were to actually open up the heart, which we would do if we were in class, you can find a video online if you'd like, but the left ventricle, this is this chamber of the heart that has the largest and thickest walls. Can you think of why? Well, it's the chamber that actually pumps blood to the entire body, so it has a design feature that's the largest and thickest walled, so those muscles have a chance to be able to send that blood with the greatest amount of pressure. So that's a fun fact about the heart. I'm going to link a video that actually shows the flow of blood to this module, so please have a look at that. And again, you'll see it's really quite interesting that the atria contract at the same time the ventricles relax and fill up with blood, and then the ventricles contract and the atria fills up with blood. Okay, you'll also don't forget to get the big idea here that these systems are all connected together, because your heart wouldn't actually beat without electrical controls from your nervous system to control the contraction and relaxation of your muscles. You wouldn't be able to actually get oxygen if there wasn't a connection between your circulatory system and your respiratory system so that it can actually pick up and exchange the oxygen for the carbon dioxide. And you wouldn't actually have the transport if you didn't have your cardiovascular system actually transporting the blood to things. So I want you to think about that big idea, because that's what your summative task is going to be, to talk about how the systems are connected. So what's the function, how they're connected, and then also a design feature. What's some of the structural components and how are those structures efficient in their function? Okay, that's it for circulatory system. We'll do one more video today, or I'll post one more today on respiratory system.